Hi, everybody. Can you see the light on my face? I'm sitting with my new Mitalux sun lamp, which I'm absolutely loving. This is the third day that I'm using it. It's a lamp that offers a range of programs that delivers UVB, red, and infrared frequencies that mimic natural sunlight without the harmful effects. And right now I've got it on this red light setting that's called fireplace mode. And it's for mitigation of blue light, among other things. Lots of other benefits too. I'm obsessed with this lamp. and, really enjoying it. I've also been spending a lot of time in infrared saunas for the last couple weeks, and I'm really noticing the benefits of that as well. I try to do all of these different things to reinforce the good energies and the good feelings and mitigate the synthetic overlays. Because as you know, we are so bombarded by those. And being under this lamp, it feels like all the beautiful feelings that you get when you're in front of the rising sun, the setting sun, the atmosphere has been so manipulated that the sunlight has the appearance of being much harsher. I don't know if you've noticed, but the sun is white now. It's been white for a number of years. I started noticing it as far back as 2021. I don't know if it was, before then it was white as well, or if I just didn't notice. But for the last 5 or some years, I've been struck by how totally white the sun is, and it's not the sun itself. I think it's the atmosphere, the ionosphere. Anyway, it feels really nice to get some natural feeling frequencies back on the body. Been doing that every morning. So, been talking about mind control and exposing the architecture of mind control the last couple weeks. And I think it's really important to do that. We need to start to recognize what's going on, how we have been perceptually manipulated in the past without realizing it, calling that stuff out so that we don't get caught up in it from lack of awareness, and so that we can restore coherence, right? Most importantly. So, this is where we kind of can bridge out of any feeling of overwhelm that occurs when we become aware of the scope and pervasiveness and extremely long history of these distortions and impositions that have been overlaid onto us. And we need to wake up, see that, apprehend the reality of that, so that we can come out of it. And that is, I think we're right on schedule, if not ahead of schedule. This is the time where we were meant to do that, right? This is the awakening. This is the Great Awakening. It's been a long time coming, and part of the awakening is, you don't just jump instantly into a better world. You have to go through the confrontation with the shadow, just like we each have to do individually, right? We're fractals, so as within, so without, as above, so below. we have to do that. You can't get away from it. There's no shortcut. There's no escape. And I don't mean that in any kind of doom sense. I mean, when you face your shadow, when you face what you were afraid of in yourself, you discover very quickly that there was nothing to be afraid of, that behind that shadow was your light. And it feels so good to actually go now hunting for your own demons and exposing them to the light, so that your light can begin to come out and be the greater part of your expression, of your soul expression, really living your soul expression. So as I've been looking more deeply at these systems, as I've been allowing myself to feel into them and to feel everything that it's done to me, and I know that, whatever it's done to me, it's done to you. So I've had moments, even recently, where the world has felt almost unreal, like the overlay was so visible, and I think to myself, like, how did I not see this before? How did I not realize what was going on? And see it for the false construction, the synthetic layer that it is. And well, I didn't, because I wasn't awake enough to it yet. But when you wake up, then you can't go back to sleep. It's very hard to go back to sleep. So you don't want to do that. And sometimes you wish you could go back to your ignorance, because it feels like innocence. But actually, that's not true. Ignorance and innocence are not at all the same thing. Real innocence is when you come back to that purity that you've always had, that has never left you, no matter what's been done to you, no matter what you've done. We all have a chance to come back to and to realize that essence of who we are, our soul, our heart, our divine connection to Source, has never been affected by anything that has been overlaid, forced on us, by any distortion that has deformed us, at least on the level of appearance. And, being asleep and all of that stuff has not affected our essence, has not affected the light of who we are. And then you are much more connected to that true and essential purity. So that's innocence. It's realizing that you can see all of it, you can hold all of it in your space, even the darkest things, and still have a sense of that purity and that innocence. Because actually, none of that stuff has any power over the light that we are. Okay, so that's the truth. But sometimes when we are letting it all in and allowing ourselves to see, and especially at times like this, when the revelations are coming, faster and faster, you can get this kind of, like a wave of existential vertigo, like what is this? Where have we been living? What has been going on? That's normal. It's normal reaction when you're waking up. It doesn't mean you're losing your mind. It means your perception is actually widening, right? Your awareness is increasing, and you are able to hold more in your awareness. And that's a good thing. When the illusion becomes visible, it can feel bleak before it feels liberating. But that's one reason why I want to do these little talks, is so that we don't get stuck in anything that feels bleak for too long. Because it isn't necessary. It is necessary to feel how you feel, to realize how your heart has been affected by all of this, but there's no need to dwell there, right? It's just we are on our way to a state of real liberation. It's just that the nervous system doesn't immediately know what to do with this expanded perception, I guess we could say. So today is not about exposing any more systems. It's about how to stay grounded and calm and peaceful and sovereign when you see them, when you are observing them. And, not collapse, not go into reactivity when you see them, okay? I think that's what we're learning as a collective too right now, is what's the difference between reactivity and responsibility, because it's a very significant difference, and we have been taken advantage of through our reactivity in the past. That has been used to trigger us, and it doesn't help us. So we've got to move from reactivity to responsibility, and we can do it, right? So, as always, the heart is our compass, okay? The mind can detect distortion, but it's the heart that stabilizes our sense of reality. Our heart is our connection to what is real and what is true. So you can start training your mind to see, right, what was hidden, what was affecting you subconsciously before, right? You weren't aware consciously, but things were affecting you subconsciously. But once you become aware of the patterns and the inversion, the persistent inversions and distortions and overlays, then you start to recognize those things consciously. They're not going to have a subconscious, unconscious effect on you in the same way. But our heart is what connects us to the real, to the real, right? To our sense of what is real, what is true, and it stabilizes us and regulates us. If we have heart coherence, right? The mind can see the matrix, but only the heart can anchor you beyond the matrix. I think that's a good way to put it. So the mind is able to recognize patterns, right? Pattern recognition. But the heart is what gives us coherence. So if you, if you have the gift of pattern recognition, but you don't have heart coherence, it's very, very tough. And you end up like, Mel Gibson in that movie Conspiracy Theory or whatever it was from the 80s or 90s. It's like that sort of typical archetypal representation of the conspiracy theorist who is kind of losing their mind because they can see what's going on, but they haven't been able to stabilize in their heart. So that's our challenge now, is to be able to see the patterns, recognize what's going on, call things out and be like, okay, I see the attempts there to hook me, right? But my heart is so coherent that I'm stable. I'm not going to get pulled off balance by what is happening out there. And furthermore, I'm going to recognize the attempts to pull me off balance, to pull society off balance, right? We have to recognize that, when people get together in large numbers, that energy gets harvested, and, large groups of people can be targeted in order to manipulate behavior, right? Like mob mentality. That's what that is, right? And so that's why they call us sheeple, sheep. Because like everybody does the same thing. Well, we don't have to. We don't have to do that. We do not have to behave that way. It's only when you're not balanced, when you have not mastered yourself, that you can get caught up in that kind of energy unconsciously, right? So it's time for us to move out of that now. Heart coherence is not an emotional state. It is not sentimental. It is biological. It is electromagnetic. It restores our natural field, our natural toroidal field. We get entrained into harmony instead of disharmony. Okay, so I'm not talking about an emotional state here. I'm talking about a biological electromagnetic state, heart coherence. So how can we restore our balance and our grounding and our sovereignty when we are faced with extreme examples of distortion, things that are extremely painful to hear or to observe, when our sense of reality is rocked by revelations that make us question everything, okay? No matter how hard it is, no matter how sickening and horrifying it is to hear some of the things that are coming out now, to acknowledge that things are not the way we thought. You know, we have to grow up and become adults now in the way that we see the world. We don't have to be overwhelmed by this. We can observe all of this. We can take it in, and our greatest strength is going to be this coherence. So let's talk about 3 things that we can do to ground ourselves, to anchor ourselves in our true sovereignty, because that is our natural state as we are sovereign beings, when we are faced with the revelations and the horrors that we're currently being faced with. And, you know, this is all in order. This is all leading us to a much greater state of freedom. But we have to move through this difficult period. It's part of our maturation, right? Individually and collectively. So the number one first thing that we can do is withdraw energetic consent. Okay? So that means, you know, and it's not through, we don't do this through anger. Again, it's not reactive. We do this through non-participation in things that used to hook us emotionally, hook us energetically, right? So if you have a habit of doom scrolling, as they say, right? And everything that you see, like everything is like worse than the last thing, and you start to feel your heart going like this, you start to get angry, you start to feel helpless, you start to get afraid. Whoa, you're doom scrolling. And all of that stuff may be true, I don't know, but that doesn't mean that you have to allow it to take you, right? That's to recognize, that's inner regulation, right? That's recognizing what's going on in me right now. How am I doing? If I am feeling like, you know, my nervous system is being negatively affected by what I'm seeing, what I'm taking in, what I'm consuming, stop. Okay? There are times where you can take this kind of information, and there are times where it's wiser not to, and you need to recognize what that is for yourself. You need to be able to know, am I in a place right now where, you know, am I feeling safe and stable enough in myself that I can allow myself to witness this darkness, or is this not a good time for that? Do I need to go do something else that's nourishing for me right now? Okay. So, you know, another thing that helps us to withdraw energetic consent is to stop arguing, right? Stop having to be right about something or to prove somebody else wrong, right? And there's no better or worse forum for that than social media, you know, when people start opining and arguing with each other on social media. What a waste of time, and what a way to get loosed, right? All of that emotional energy that you are expending in argument is completely useless. It's totally useless. Don't bother. Withdraw from that kind of thing. your peace is so much more important. And that comes from a place of wholeness, right? Not a place of polarity. This is right, that's wrong. All right, don't let yourself get triggered by that stuff anymore. I'm speaking to myself too, you know. Another thing that we can do to withdraw energetic consent is to stop worshiping external authority. Now, I understand that can be challenging because we were raised to do that. We were raised to look to certain authority figures for permission, for reassurance, and of course, there are certain people in our lives that we trust, that may be worthy of our trust. But a lot of the figures that we've been steered towards, at least in my lifetime, turned out to be completely unworthy of trust. So the truth is, you are your own authority when you stand in your natural authority, when you know who you are, when you have forgiven yourself, when you have processed your, metabolized your shadow and all of that. Your own natural authority is just there. It's just there. It was always there. You just didn't trust it. You didn't trust yourself because there were, obstacles in the way. So stop worshiping external authority. Withdraw your energy from, having to have somebody else tell you whether it's okay, whether it's right or wrong, whatever it is, what to think, what to feel about things. Go within and trust yourself. And finally, stop feeding these outrage cycles, right? I mean, this is what we see in the media, not just the mainstream media, also in the alternative media. There's so many things clamoring for our attention, right? And you just, it's like, look here, look there, look and it's designed to hook your attention and to feed your emotional body, to feed your outrage and your feelings of helplessness and impotence in the face of extreme corruption and lack of justice. Look, whatever is going on right now that is being talked about in the mainstream and the alternative medias, whatever it is we're finding out about what people have done, what people that we, many thousands or millions of people looked up to have done, however dark it gets, justice, we're not going to see justice within the system. Forget it. The justice system was not made for us. It was made to keep us in line. We're not going to get justice through that system. We're not going to get justice through the system that made it possible for these things to go on for so long. Let it go. That's not how it's going to happen. Any more than it's going to happen through a political system. Like, if we finally just can elect the right leader. It's a joke. Those people are not elected. They were maneuvered into place to give us the illusion that we had a choice. We've never had that. All right, so none of the answers can be found within the systems that currently exist. That's why they're falling, right? So stop looking for the answers in there and instead withdraw our energetic consent from those systems. Nope, that is not where it's going to happen. It's going to happen through us. It's happening through our awakening. That is how it's happening. It's happening in the real, right? And that's what we have to nourish, right? The systems feed on our reactivity and our lack of self-mastery, our dependency on those systems, but we don't actually need them. We've just been taught that we do, but we don't. We don't. So we can withdraw our energy from them. We can withdraw our consent from them. Our sovereignty is nourished by regulation, coming back to yourself, coming back to center, to your breath, etc., etc. Okay. Second way to regain your sovereignty, to re-ground and re-anchor in the face of revelations of mind control, of corruption, of extreme distortion, of darkness, and everything that is coming to light now, and it's a good thing, is number 2 is to rebuild the organic grid. Oh, I better turn my light back on. Here we go. It goes for 30 minutes and then you have to start it again. Okay. The organic grid, so to speak, right? Rebuild our connection with what is real. When everything feels artificial, we got to go where nothing is artificial, right? And that's nature, right? I mean, you know, they've tried hard to to make nature as synthetic as they can, but they haven't succeeded yet. You know, we can still go to nature as a place to feel nurtured, right? Nature, the harmonious vibrations in nature help us to reset our perception. They help us to regulate our nervous systems, to come back to what is true, to come back to a sense of calm. Bare feet on the earth recharges, or, you know, what's the word? Discharges static from our system. Breathing resets our vagal tone, right? And then the whole system starts to pulse harmoniously in harmony with nature, with the Schumann resonance, with the earth, with what is real and with what is true, right? So first we got to unhook the mind by withdrawing energetic consent from the systems. Then we can rebuild the organic grid by going to nature, by breathing, by doing all of the things that stimulate that pulsation of real life. And then the third thing is self-authorization, practicing self-authorization. And I touched on this earlier, right? Like these little micro declarations that we can make to ourselves every day, like, I'm the authority in my field. I am standing in my natural authority. Even if you don't believe it at first, you can start doing that, because this is the truth, right? And we just have a lot of programming going in the opposite direction, but the truth is we are the authority in our field. It's so simple, right? Sometimes when people ask me if I'm working with somebody and they're like, well, what do I do? What do I say to, you know, to get these negative influences off me, out of me, or whatever. And I'm like, well, you just state it. You have to declare your field. Is that all it is? Yeah, that's all it is. And that's a lot, right? It is so simple, but we have never been taught that we can do that it has any power, because we have been so brainwashed to believe that we don't have any power, that we have to look outside of ourselves, that we have to worship or pray to a deity to give us, you know, through divine favor, a break, you know. And it's so not true. We are the authority. We are directly connected to source. Right? If you don't believe it, because you're a creator being, if you don't believe it, you just are creating that powerlessness and that helplessness all around you in your experience, right? So these daily micro declarations that restore your self-authority in your field, your self-responsibility, right, are very powerful. I do this every day. So you can say things like, I am the authority in my own field, right? Or I stand in my natural authority. Or I withdraw consent from all unconscious contracts. Or only what is organic and aligned and serves my sovereign path of integration may remain, right? You can create these little affirmations for yourself. Start to believe that you have command over your field. There may be influences in your field right now that you never consented to. They cannot remain when you wake up and begin to occupy your field, right? When you come back and you occupy your body, You come back all the way down into your body, all the way down through your feet into the earth, and say, I'm here, I live here now, I'm living in this body by choice, and I'm intending to come back. I'm no longer dissociated. The master is home. The master has come home. I am here now. I am present in my body. I am present in this divine incarnational vessel. I am present in my field. And I am in command of this field. I am the prime authority in this field. And nothing that does not support that may remain in this field. They have to leave. They have to. That's divine law or lore. Okay, this weekend I gave a lecture on transhumanism. That's a lot of there are a lot of layers, a lot of information to be digested when we start talking about transhumanism. But basically the transhumanist philosophy, which is being pushed very, very hard, is that the body is obsolete, in need of an upgrade, in need of improvement by technology. It's an attempt to merge our bodies with synthetic technology. In other words, to recreate all of the organic networks and connections synthetically so that they can be controlled, right? And the presumption underneath that is that so that they can sell it to us is that we need upgrading, we need improvement, right? Because we're not, we're kind of not very good or not very cool or not very powerful the way that we are. And that is a complete falsehood. Our bodies, what we are as humans, is the most advanced technology in the entire universe. And that's why they want to try to control it. So don't believe what they say about, we can make you like gods. No, you already are. You already are. There's no way they can make you any better with their technology, right? But they didn't ask you if you wanted that or not. They just went ahead and started modifying us, modifying our DNA, modifying our bodies to suit their agendas. Look, there's nothing we can do about the fact that they have already begun that we have been hooked into, literally and figuratively, into technologies that are the only way that we communicate or do anything anymore. We don't fight transhumanism. We just outgrow it. We just outgrow it. I don't need that. I don't need that anymore, right? Check our dependency on all of that stuff and keep coming back to here. No, we embody something far more coherent than the promises of transhumanism, when it, the way that it is sold to the people. The actual purpose of it, the actual agenda, is total control and separating you from your soul and your connection to source so that you can be completely consumed. Being God is so 20th century. Good one, Mark. So again, we just withdraw our consent energetically. And there are measures that we can take to detoxify our bodies from these technologies and these nanotechnologies and these toxins and the parasites and the venoms and all the stuff that, we're being bombarded with. We definitely can help our body out with getting rid of that stuff. That is a process of detoxification. But we have to understand that we can withdraw our energetic consent from such things as well. And that's even more important, right? That's where our real power comes from, because we embody the real coherence. That's who we are, right? So you have to stand in your natural authority. Otherwise, you're going to get overwhelmed and feel like, powerless and unable to do anything and just give up. The way a lot of people, unfortunately, when they face this kind of information, it just overwhelms them, and they don't know what to do, and they kind of freeze, right? Because the nervous system isn't prepared, right? So in these talks, in these conversations, in the podcast, in all my teachings, what I'm trying to do to the best of my ability, guys, is to share all of this stuff with you, but never voicing, to quote Kathy O'Brien, never voicing any negatives without a solution. There's no point in voicing negatives without solutions. That's just complaining, right? Or despairing, or blackpilling. We have the solutions. we have the solutions already. They're within us. Most of them are free. So never worry that God, this is the end. No, it's the apocalypse. This is the apocalypse, right? But apocalypse doesn't mean the end of the world. It means the revelation. That's the root of the word apocalypse. Means revelation. Revelation of the truth, right? Removal of the veil. It is the end of the world for some. It's the end of the world for those systems. It's the end for them. That's why they've tried to make it sound like a bad thing. Maybe it's a bad thing for them. It's a good thing for us. Right, so where all of this is leading, if we widen the lens now, all of this stuff is intensifying. The control is intensifying because the convergence is closer every day. The synthetic architecture tightens before it collapses. And, the false geometries are destabilizing as our remembrance increases. Right? So don't go down the doom path and think that all of this means that we're losing or something, Everything is destabilizing, everything is falling apart, and everything is squeezing tighter on the way to falling apart because, the desperation and because this convergence is coming. This architecture cannot succeed, not because we fight it, but because it was built on inversion in the first place. And that is not truth. All inversion must collapse in the presence of coherence. So as coherence is growing, inversion is falling apart. And what is precipitating this is our awakening. It's not something that's happening from the outside. Like sitting around waiting for, somebody else to come in and save us and fix this, like the aliens are going to come down and fix this, or God is going to come or Jesus is going to come and fix this. No, this is happening through us. It is happening through awakening. It is happening because coherence is taking over, and the architecture that was built on falsehood and inversion cannot stand in the presence of coherence. Everything is happening through us. That's why we want to stay regulated. That's why we want to keep coming back to our hearts. That's why we want to practice responsibility, not reactivity. It's happening through us. We are the ones. Right? We are the ones. We are the ones we've been waiting for. Every being chooses their own alignment. That's it. It's simple, right? No one's being dragged anywhere. If you don't want to become a cyborg, you don't become a cyborg. That's all. You choose. You choose your alignment. This is not apocalypse as destruction. It is apocalypse as revelation. Destruction of the old world, yes. Destruction of the old systems based on inversion, yes. That's natural. It's natural as coherence rises, right? It's revelation as sorting by frequency. We sort ourselves by frequency. So the best thing we can do now is to deal with our own shadows, to face everything within ourselves that we've put off facing or tried to project onto other people, or I'll get to that later, face it now, face it now. It's never what you think it is. There's nothing to be lost by facing your shadows. Everything to be gained. You'll know you're more true. You will naturally stand in your authority, right? That's what we were talking about earlier. And so this is how the new world is being born, through each and every one of us. Not because something out there is happening. It is happening through us. So we got to just keep doing the work. Just keep doing the daily letting go, the daily tuning back into what is real through the heart, through nature, through supporting and loving one another, letting go of arguments, letting go of our beef, and don't allow yourself to be divided and conquered. I just did a podcast episode on that. Divide and conquer. This is the oldest playbook in the world. They've been using us on us for millennia. Don't buy it. Don't get involved in that anymore. We don't have to go there. Team human. Everybody get together. That's the way through. So, again, if all of this feels too big, just bring your focus back to what's real, okay? It always works. Drink some water, step outside, breathe for 5 minutes, put your hands on your heart, feel inside your heart. Simplify your inputs, put down the phone, speak less, observe more. You don't need to solve the world. We do not need to solve a problem, solve the world. We just need to stabilize our field. That's all we need to do. Stabilize our field, come home to the heart. The real is not fragile, it's just quiet. Okay, I'm going to close this space now. May we see clearly without becoming untethered. May we recognize distortion without absorbing it. May we root so deeply into our own sovereign heart that no false synthetic interference, infiltration, or overlay can hook us again. That's what I wish for all of us. That's what I wish for myself. And that's all I'm going to say today. Thank you for your presence. See you again next week.